So, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this podcast, to the Varside Pubcast. Today, I'm joined by Steve Worrell. How are you doing, mate?
Good, thanks. Yeah, really good. Lots of stuff going on. And I'm quite excited for the game today. So, yeah, really good.
Yeah, you just managed to re-secure yourself a ticket, haven't you? You'd sold your ticket,
Yeah,
and then the match that you were meant to be coaching got cancelled, and now you got yourself a ticket again.
yeah. At a cost of I don't know how much more, four or £5 more it's
Uh,
cost me to just go
yeah,
get another bloody ticket. Oh dear.
wow. I'd love to be going to a game, to be fair, but yeah, you obviously know why, but some of our listeners don't know why I haven't been here for a little bit. It's a bit of a surprise to me as well, to be fair. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was out running and doing, keeping fit, and look, I mean, quite svelte and quite fit. Don't lead a sort of ridiculous lifestyle, but a couple of weeks ago, I ended up having some chest pains and being admitted to hospital. And a week later, they popped a stent in, and
Hmm.
I'm going to do a bit more work on that. But the only reason I thought I'd mention it is because us guys aren't the best at sort of facing up to things sometimes, and maybe one or two people listening might have some issues that they're not sure about. I just think you just have to listen to your body, and
Yeah.
that's really important. I mean, we've seen campaigns, haven't we, with prostate cancer and things like that, but men are not very good at facing up to ill health.
No, 100%. I think you're right. You're right. I mean, whenever there's a little twinge or whatever and a little niggle, everyone goes, oh, like, yeah, that'll pass. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nothing. So, yeah.
Well, seriously, I mean, for the week before, a couple of weeks beforehand, I mean, I was, as I say, I've been a regular runner. A couple of times I couldn't do it. I went back. I said, got the worst indigestion. It's really terrible. I've been
Mm.
gulping down bottles of Gaviscon and things like that. And then after a while, I thought, no, this isn't right. So, but on the mend now. So onwards and upwards, and hopefully I'll get to a Spurs game sometime soon. So yeah, don't rub it in too much if it's a great game today.
Well, do you know what? Like, I mean, we're going to come on to this in a minute about the Man, like when we quickly review the Man United game. But for me, like half of it being a really good game is a win. So I was watching.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was at home watching the Man United game, and someone said to me, "I like enjoy the game." I said, "Yeah, if we win, I'll enjoy it. If we don't win, I ain't enjoying it." So you
Well,
know, that's
let's
that's
get
half the battle.
let's get straight into that, Steve, because we'll just go straight into what our thoughts were on that game overall and what your emotions were. I mean, personally, I try to really, considering everything, try and take the emotion out of it. I couldn't afford to really be too stressed by it.
Yeah,
But I just, my overriding feeling for that game was real disappointment and how we just didn't show up. From we had a reasonable start. We were on the ropes, but we looked like we were okay. But after that, it was kitchen sink time from them. It just felt inevitable. None of us, none of the players, Larissa's side, I thought had a good game. They all looked scared, timid, leggy. I mean,
yeah. I'm gonna. I'm sorry. I will cut you with that because I was waiting for
go
that
on.
kind of that trigger word. But there's a lot of people that kind of said we looked leggy, and I don't think we looked leggy. I just think everything else you've said up to then totally applicable. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I just think we don't have any bottle. We don't show any bottle in the big games.
Hmm.
None of the big players turned up. No, Kane was poor. Son was poor. Brenton Core wasn't great. Perisic is still showing to me that he's not producing on the pitch, like
Hmm.
in open play where we need him to. Højbjerg was poor. Defensively we weren't great. No, so everything about our game was. What I do feel is that Basuma, I feel, is too shackled in terms of
Mm.
what he can do as a player.
He looked a bit frightened to me, a bit timid.
He's got
Considering
to
the
play.
last game,
Yeah, he's
he
got to play,
bossed
but he's
it.
got to play. Yeah, but he's got to play within a constraint. He's got to play
Yeah.
within a certain system and structure, and has to play exactly how Conte expects him to play within that system, which
Hmm.
probably takes a little bit away from his game. So I totally agree with everything else you said. I just don't agree that that the players were leggy. I think that's I think it's a mentality thing, and
yeah.
I
don't know. Maybe I think you're probably right, Steve, as usual. I just thought with this particular game that they gave you the impression, probably a false impression, that they were leggy because we were second to everything. Everything that, either they were knocking Kane off the ball. When does that happen? They were, every time that we got the ball, we gave it away. Every time, every second ball went to them. Every time that they had a pass, it came off, and none of ours were. They've been cut out all the time. So it kind of looked like they were a bit lethargic. But I actually feel, and I didn't think I'd say this at the start of the season for a Conte team, we look frightened. We look like, and as he said in his press conference subsequently, basically in the big games, we don't show up.
He's right, though. We don't show up. We didn't show up against Arsenal.
No.
We don't show up. And
we got lucky against Chelsea.
Yeah. And if you think about when we conceded, I think when we conceded the first goal, for about 10 minutes or 5-10 minutes after that, we kind of played with a bit of urgency, right? We looked like we need to play now. Played with a bit of urgency. So that's what I'm saying. It showed that we're not leggy. It showed that I don't think that the players kind of don't interpret the way that we're supposed to play from Conte well enough. So, controlling the game doesn't mean to say you don't play with urgency and you pass the ball around the back with no intention to try and get forward. I think it shows it's like the other game where we won and we'd come from behind. It was a similar thing. So I'm not sure. And then it kind of settled down again, didn't it? And Man United, kind of having weathered the 5 or 10 minute storm, took control of the game again. And at that point, you're kind of thinking right, okay, change it. You need to make a change.
I'm sure I wasn't the only one thinking we can't play any worse than that. That was the worst first half I've seen us play since probably the Burnley game. So surely Conte's going to give him a rocket. And then we come out and concede a goal within a couple of minutes and just look shell-shocked and never recover.
Yeah. But then at that point, for me, you're thinking he'll change this in 5-10 minutes.
And he didn't.
There's no way he can't. And I don't want to like big up Andy, but he loves, he goes on about Potter quite a lot. And I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I listened to the game while I was driving yesterday, and Man United were battering Chelsea, battering them 0-0. And he goes, if I don't make a change, we're going to lose this game. And he made a change, and he made the change after 35 minutes. So you've got to be brave and do that.
I think so, Steve. And I just wondered, I'm just going to go full conspiracy theorist here. Do you think that was stubbornness for a reason, to point out to Levy that still at the moment we haven't got enough strength and depth to make these changes, and this is the best of what we've got? Or do you think that's just his complete stubbornness to basically see it through with what he's got? Because those changes at the very end, what we're talking like the last sort of 7 or 8 minutes, were pointless.
Yeah, they were. And if you listen to the pre-match interview for press conference, for today's game and to the game against Newcastle, and they're talking about the options because there's no Richarlison and there's no Kulusevski, and he says, okay, we've got Mora, who's kind of coming back to fitness, still recovering. He makes no mention of Hill at all. He makes no mention of Brian Hill. But Hill was on the bench, and a week or so before, he's mentioning him. So is he? You're right. There might be an element of conspiracy about that. I wanted him out. I've still got him. When push comes to shove, and I'm going to want to make changes, it's not him that I want to bring on. I want to bring on better standard of player, or player that will suit my system or my desires better. So you might be right.
And it can't all be down to, I know Kulusevski has really, by his absence, has made our heart grow fonder, because he seems to be the thing that knits everything together. But the whole thing can't be hinged on one player. That's an absurdity. So I think, at the moment, I don't know if you saw Conte's recent statement. I think kind of really he's hinted at, because a lot of people have asked him, have you got an alternative for, Kulusevski? Have you got an
Yeah.
alternative for sort of key players? And he's basically saying, not yet. I mean,
Yeah.
should I read that statement out? Because I thought it was actually really positive, because there've been talk about him going to, like, the Mail recently reported about him looking to go to Juventus. He's not happy, but these comments fly in the face of that and actually look like he's prepared and he knows what to do. It just depends how quick the club wants to do it.
Yeah, he knows it's going to take time to do it. But go on, let's listen to the statement.
So it says, I know we need a process to go step by step, become really, really strong team, and to become title contenders. So first of all, he's talking about title contenders, so that's a good thing. I like to speak about the process because I know and I feel that this club and this team needed our process. Not in 10 months or 1 year and a click and you do it, everything is okay, you're title contenders and better than City, Chelsea, Liverpool, United and Arsenal. You try to do it, but you have to know there is a path. The path is compulsory. You have to go through this if you want to fight for something special and win trophies. Before, to reach an important level, you have to go through a path and improve the quality, improve the number of players in the squad, especially if you are to play Champions League and Premier League. But this is all part of the process. Then it depends what we want along the process, a short process, a medium process. You have to have the solutions. You have to know how to have patience. I have great respect for the club and what the club wants to try to do. But at the same time, I know our possibilities are different to the monsters that are in England. There is a difference. It doesn't mean that my aspiration not to fight at the same level, but you need to have time, patience, and don't make mistakes in the transfer market. In many situations, it's normal for a club like Tottenham in this moment. So, there's more on those comments, but that doesn't say that he wants to leave anytime soon.
No.
That suggests to me that the current players that are where we are going to be the second string players eventually, and we'll replace them with better.
I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say that, where he's kind of reiterating certainly that last bit where about you can't make mistakes in the transfer market. He's certainly reiterating that we bought a style of player or a type of player that he doesn't feel fit the Premier League, or maybe able to play in the Premier League, but not where we want to get to. The Brian Hills of this world, for example, he doesn't see those as players that are going to impact the game or give us that that quality that we need. So in one way it's kind of reassuring, but on the flip side it's frustrating in the meantime because is he going to stick with 13 or 14 players to make a point?
I mean, I've made some bad player calls recently. Højbjerg, I think, has been our best player this season, and I've been one of the first to jump on him and say that I don't think he's good enough. Ultimately, maybe that could be the case, but he has been our best player. Does it mean he is world class, the type of player we need to win Champions Leagues and the Premier League? I'm not sure, but he is definitely not one of the worst. Emerson, I stuck up for, but really I'm finding it very difficult to stick up for Emerson. But he's not one of the worst. He gives everything. Conte apparently loves him because of his attitude. But this is the thing, right? I mean, these players, and I think Conte's kind of hinted at it, they're good men. They will give everything, but giving everything is not the same as being at the required level.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because I don't know if I don't know if I'm being like you, where you've kind of were prepared to kind of stick up for Emerson for quite a while and were didn't rate Højbjerg, and I mean at the moment I just don't see it with Perisic, but I wonder if I'm being blinded by an initial reaction and perception to him, because I think in the Man United game he did bits that were okay, but I don't feel that he, given his